My name is Natya Stroud. I am originally from Minnesota, born and raised in Minneapolis. I I often am confused with being an immigrant or from somewhere else just from my appearance, but um, oftentimes the challenge that I have is getting people to understand that I am African American. I am currently a practicing nurse practitioner. I'm also a wife and a mother. My children range in ages from 19 to 26. No grandkids yet, but hopefully on the way soon. Um, Outside of that, I am very focused on advocating for people of color and people who are underprivileged. And that is in a variety of areas, whether it's social justice, healthcare, or just simply advocating for their needs. I grew up in North Minneapolis. My mom and dad never married, and they did not maintain a relationship. And then my mom met my stepfather, who she later married, but they had been dating for years before they got married. And so I was around 5 years old when when he started becoming a more consistent figure in our lives. I do have two sisters and a brother. And I still have a really good relationship with my stepdad. Um, and he always considers me his daughter. So for this show and tell, we decided we're going to make something, and we made a robot. And the robot was not like a moving around kind of robot. It was like it was just like a little guy. We used a cereal box for his body and toilet paper rolls for his arms, and we paper mache them together, and then cut a hole in his back and put a music box inside. And it was a music box from some old jewelry box I had that was broken. And so it's like, oh, let's just put that in there. And then we painted him up and made him look like a person. And so now I brought this for show and tell. And they were like, oh my God, this is so fantastic. And I mean, I guess looking back for like a 5-year-old to like have the idea to put something like that together and like orchestrate it is probably pretty cool. But at that moment, they said, okay, you got to start going to these other classes. And the classes were like these gifted and talented classes. The school was really good quality, and it included things like parenting classes and stuff, which I think a lot of people don't get, even outside of being a teen parent or whatever. I think teen parents, I think parents who are of normal circumstances just don't see the value in that. But I think it was really, really important. I mean, it wasn't like I didn't know about kids. I grew up around a lot of kids. Our family is really big, and often the babysitter and stuff like that. So, but it was a little more nuanced than that. I do think that completing that was enormous. At the same time, there were some things I had to give up, like I couldn't go to prom, or the alternative school didn't offer PSEO, which had been my plan from when I first started as a freshman, was to do PSEO courses, which is why I was ahead in my other stuff. And so then they were like, no, we don't do that here. But thankfully there was a good amount of other girls there that also were advanced in their education and stuff. So they were willing to offer advanced placement courses like calculus, because before they hadn't. They just felt like no one would want it. But I feel like in my grade, there was more than half of us were ready for that. And they ended up bringing in a teacher, and that was really successful. Once I had completed my associate degree, the next semester immediately went on for my bachelor's degree. And that was intentional because I always intended from the beginning to have a bachelor's degree. It wasn't that, oh, I just need a career. It was like, I need my bachelor's degree. And it was a struggle. I mean, there was times where, I'm busy with the kids in the morning or during the day, and I was up all night doing homework or studying for exams or things like that. And then unfortunately, I have a large family. My family had always been supportive of me in my education. And in fact, when I was younger, there was always thought, oh yeah, you're going to go to be a lawyer, you're going to do something. And so that type of support was there, but like actually being there and like cooking the meals or helping with the kids or something like that. No, then going to my doctorate program, that then felt like the associate program. Like it was a full-time program. Financially, I had to keep working. The instructors would frequently say people should not be working outside of school. It's too much. They would frequently say most students who are working are not going to be successful in the program. And I just kind of like, I don't have a choice. Like we have kids, we need groceries. We now have a house. Stuff has to happen. And so the lowest FTE I took while in my doctorate program was a 0.6. One of our kids has autism, and there was a lot of challenges with that in high school and middle school, where there were frequent meetings, frequent interventions, frequent things that had to be done. And then I think ultimately looking back, the kids started to feel like we weren't there for them. And it's hard because it's like everything we were doing is to be sure that they were secure. They never had to worry about having issues with a place to sleep. Never had to worry about food to eat. We always had food. We never had to worry about having your utilities shut off. Like these are things that both my husband and I had to struggle with when we were kids growing up. And you know what I mean? Standing in the welfare line for like the government cheese and stuff like, I mean, like that literally happened. But my kids never had to go through that. And so they don't understand that. And at the same time, they can only see things from their lens. And so I have to respect that. As Muslims, when the kids were young, we wanted them to participate in something similar to like Girl Scouts, but there really wasn't that. Or it was hard because the troops around were very Christian focused, and we like, you know, we want to participate and have that kind of experience for them, but not at the risk of their religion or their faith. And so I had started like a little girls group because we have, you know, there's a lot of Muslims that have converted to Islam, and there's a lot of people of color who are Muslim converts. And so we would try to always stay active in the community. And I had friends that had kids similar age as mine. They were all girls. And so I said, guys, listen, we're going to start doing this. I just started doing like a weekly class with the kids, and we would make crafts. We would do fundraising for different organizations. We would like talk about like some, you know, the like stories of the different prophets and like learning about this kind of history and stuff like that. Just fun for the kids. And the kids loved it. And I did that. No one had to pay anything. I did it out of my house. I put all the stuff together, and we did that for years. I don't remember why I think it was when I started getting more aggressive with school again, we had to let it go. But I really found that, and a lot of those kids still have relationships now with each other. I was a board member for Sisters Need a Place. And it's a shelter, a domestic violence shelter for women and kids. A lot of communities are very blind to domestic violence, and that's also true in the Muslim community. And at that time, it was still very difficult as a woman to say things are wrong and I need help. And even when you did, people would say, no, you're mistaken. And so this place offered an outlet for women in case they did need to, like, were in situations that they felt were unsafe. They could come to this place. And it was a house. A brother had bought this house and wanted it for this type of a shelter. And so we formed a board and made that happen. I definitely was in school while that was going on. And I feel like I was involved with them for about 3 years before I stepped down. But I really think that was important. And I'm so glad that it's still active, it's still going. You raise your kids the best you can and from what you think is the right way. And ultimately, they're individual people and they're going to make their own decisions. And so, having the peace in yourself and willingness to accept that as they become adults, then we lose control as parents. And they, you raise them well enough, they're going to make good decisions, and let them do that. I mean, no one is perfect, so everyone's going to make mistakes and things are going to not always go out exactly right. But, you still that safety net in case they need you. And as long as you are able to have those good boundaries set, then oftentimes they respect you enough to seek your advice and stuff like that. So right now, besides working as a nurse practitioner, I'm also a faculty member at the University of Minnesota at part-time, which next summer I'll transition to full-time with university. But um, that is a whole nother level of, it's a different part of the brain that you're using and teaching and helping to train other nurse practitioners. This is your education. And if you're finding that you feel there's lack of opportunity or opportunity is not being given to you that you see is available, then go get it. Like, you're in this situation, step up and say, hey, I can do that. I'm willing to do that. Oh, I'm really good at this, or I'm working on this thing and I think I can do it there. I want to say it. And what's the worst can happen is they say no. Otherwise, you can stay quiet and have all these feelings and then feel miserable about life and also lose the opportunities. I don't often reflect on that kind of stuff. I feel perhaps my greatest accomplishment is having content and feeling like I can do whatever I set out to do, without feeling like there's too many barriers or obstacles, and that I build up this structure that I can't be knocked down on because this is my foundation. I think that my faith has helped me in understanding that, like, that whole giving up control thing. You know what I mean? Like, I am not in control of anything. Like I mentioned with the kids, at some point you got to let them be adults and let them be their own person. And some people just feel like, oh, I don't like what they're doing, and try to, implement this control, and that just worsens your relationship. Like, or like things with work. I'm not worried about losing my job. I have a lot of degrees. I will find another job. But at the same time, people should not feel bad about coming to work. People should not feel fear about their job security. And so, helping to advocate for the voices of people who feel like they can't say something.